All right, today we're doing 3.1, inequalities in their graphs. Please copy down example number 1. We're looking at, is each number a solution to x greater than or equal to 5? Now looking at A, -2. Is -2 greater than or equal to 5? No, it's not. So -2 is not a solution to x is greater than or equal to 5. Now let's look at 10. B. Is 10 greater than or equal to 5? Yes, 10 is greater than 5. So 10 is a solution to x greater than or equal to 5. What about 25 over 5? Is that greater than or equal to 5? Yes, because what's 25 divided by 5? And 5 is equal to 5, is it not? So 25 over 5 is a solution. If you notice, we have 2 yeses to this problem. So if this was a multiple choice question on your test, there would be 2 answers to this problem, B and C. On your SOL test this year, you will have some questions that will have more than one correct answer, and you will have to pick all of the solutions, not just A, B, or C. You could have to pick B and C. Okay, questions? All right, we're going to move on to example 2. Slightly bigger. We have 3 plus 2x is less than 8. I want to know if -2 is a solution to this problem and if 3 is a solution to this problem. And I'll help you start the problem. You put -2 in for x. And then you put 3 in for x, and you work out the problems and see if the answer is less than 8. So you put in 3 plus 2 times -2. And then you work that out and see if it's less than 8. Then you check the other side, 3 plus 2 times 3, and work that out and see if it's less than 8. So go ahead and multiply both sides. See if the answer is less than 8 for each one. I'll give you a minute to do that. Ten more seconds. All right, you should be complete. You should be done with problems A and B. Is -2 a solution to this problem? You said yes. Let's see. So what is -2 times 2? Okay. So what is -3 plus, or sorry, 3 plus -4? And -1 is less than 8? You're right. So -2 is a solution. Now, if we check the other side, what about 3? You said no. So 3 times 2 makes 6. So 3 plus 6 is going to be 9. And 9's not less than 8? That's right. So that's why 3 is not a solution to this problem. Questions? All right, please correct yours. If you got it wrong, write this down. We're going to move on to the next slide. In example 3, we're going to graph an inequality on a number line. Now, you do not have to write down all of these numbers. It's not necessary to write down every number on the number line. Just write down a couple numbers. That's all I need. You do not have to write down the entire number line. Now, the way we graph on a number line is we put a circle or a dot on the number line at the number 3. Does anybody know how to tell whether you put a circle or a dot? Yes? Okay, someone else? That's correct. When you have a less than or equal to, you have the line underneath the inequality, you put a dot. If you just have a less than or greater than, you put a circle. That's perfect. So in letter choice A, are we going to put a circle or a dot? Good. So go to 3 and put a circle. Now, when you're making a graph, you go the same way the symbol is pointing. It's like an arrow. Which way is this less than pointing? Right, it's pointing to the left. Now, do not graph like this. The reason I'm asking you not to graph like that is, can you barely see my line? If I can barely see your line, then how can I give you credit for it? You need to shade so that it's crystal clear. And do not do this either. Do not shade above the line. Do not shade below the line. Shade on the line. Some of your middle school teachers told you to shade above the line. They made it go like this. When you shade it, you shade on a number line. So let me erase this. When you shade, shade so you can actually see it. Oops. Can everyone see where I shaded this time? It's very clear where I shaded. So when you shade on your paper, make sure I can tell where you're shading. If I have to guess which way you shaded, I might guess wrong, just count it wrong. So when you shade, make it dark. Don't be afraid to make it shaded really dark. And shade on the number line, on the line. All right, I'd like you to do B. I'd like you to shade B on your paper. I'll give you 30 seconds. Now, I hope you noticed that this time the problem was written backwards. Do you see where the G is? The G is on the wrong side. The variable always goes first. So you need to reverse this and switch the G and the -3. Now, when you switch the G and the -3 around, your greater than will become a less than or equal to. So all of you that shaded to the right, I'm sorry, I tricked you so that you remember. You always have to have the letter written first to know which way it points. So your shading needs to be to the left. And don't forget to seriously shade it. Don't pretend. There's no faking with your shading. Shade like you mean it, or don't even bother. So remember, the variable has to be written first. So correct this if you made a mistake, and then we'll move on to the next one. All right, next slide. Slide 3. We're going to look at finding out what the inequality is from the graph. So let's start with this one. Now, looking at this graph, what is the inequality that makes this graph? So first off, we're going to look at the number. What number is this dot at? Good. It's at 4. Now, do we put a greater than or a less than? Look at the arrow, and that says greater than. Now decide, should there be a line underneath it? If you look, we have a dot, so we're going to put a line underneath the greater than. Now select a variable, x. And now you've written the inequality for the graph. X is greater than or equal to 4. So, to review, write down the number where the dot is. Put your less than or greater than symbol. Decide whether it should be or equal to or not. And then put your variable in the very front. Okay? Now I'm going to write 2 more up here, and I'd like you to do these 2. There's B. Please do B. There's C. And there's D. Please write the inequalities for B, C, and D. I'll give you a little over a minute to solve these 3 inequalities. All right, let's take a look at B. So the number we have here is -2. You can see this is a less than symbol. Do not put a line underneath it and then put a letter. So x is less than -2. Okay, let's look at C. We have a circle at 1.5. There's nothing wrong with putting it at a decimal. We have a greater than sign. No line underneath it because it's a circle. X. Okay, and the last one. We have a number. We have 1, 2, 3. We have -3. You have a less than symbol. You have a dot, so put a line underneath it, x. X is less than or equal to -3. So please make these corrections if you have any, and we'll move on to slide 4. All right, slide 4 starts lesson 3.2, solving inequalities using addition and subtraction. Okay, we're going to solve the problem and then graph it. So I'll give you just a few seconds to write down example number 1. Now looking at A, how would we solve this problem? We're solving for x, so we need to. Anybody? That's right, subtract the 14. And what is 16 minus 14? Good, 2. So now that we've solved the inequality, x is less than 2, we can go to our number line underneath and graph it. So please go to 2 and put a circle or a dot. Very good, a circle. And which way does the arrow point? That's right, to the left. So shade to the left. And don't forget the shade so it's crystal clear for me. And that is how you solve a problem with addition or subtraction, and then you graph it. Okay, here is B. It is y plus -21 greater than 7. Please solve this problem and then graph it. I'll give you just about a minute to solve and graph B. All right, let's look at B. Let me scroll this up just a little bit for you. All right, on B, we're going to solve this by, since this is -21, I hope you said plus 21. And what is 7 plus 21? Good, 28. Now I want you in the middle of this number line to put the number 28. Now, circle or a dot over the 28. Good. Circle. Which way do we shade? That's right, to the right. So make sure you shade it in fully. And that's the graph of y greater than 28. Great. Go ahead and get this one down, and we have one final slide coming up next. All right, here's our final slide. We're still solving and graphing. So if you remember from our lesson 2.4, when you have a variable on both sides, subtract the smaller one. Now, I'll give you a chance to write this down before we subtract the smaller variable. Now, which is the smaller variable? That's right, 2r. So subtract 2r. 3 minus 2 makes 1r, or just r. Remember, you do not have to write the 1 in front of r. If you do, write it down and then erase it. See? It's gone now. And then the second step, that's right, plus 17. And then 14 plus 17 makes, good, 31. Now, circle, put a 31, and then circle or dot. Excellent. Circle, shade to the, very good, the right. Make sure you can clearly see the shading. And the final question. Please do B, solve B, and graph it. Give you about a minute to do that. All right, we have a variable on both sides. So what is the smaller variable? Right, 10t. So subtract 10t. I mean, sorry, 9t. Take 9t away from 10. And 10 minus 9t? Good, just 1t. Remember, we do not need the 1 in front of the t. So if you wrote it there, erase it now. And then the next step, good, plus 3. And 3 plus 5 makes, good, 8. Now, if you graph it here, you're going to get it wrong. Because remember, the t goes first. So you have to reverse the t and the 8. And when you do, your greater than sign is going to turn into, or your less than sign will turn into a greater than sign. You must reverse it when you reverse the number and the letter. So now put a circle or dot at the number 8. Good. Circle. Shade to the right. Excellent. Remember, variable goes first. This concludes lesson 3.1 and 3.2. You should now be able to do the homework for these 2 pages. Any questions, please ask in class.